We're back for Season 4 of the PPL, and in Week 1 we're facing off against a long-time rival in 𝘾𝙀𝙍𝙀. Last season we faced off against 𝘾𝙀𝙀 in quarter-finals, and we were able to pull out a very narrow win, but I'm expecting this one to be even closer. Speaking of playoffs, and last time out, we got absolutely dumpstered by 𝘾𝙀𝙀 in the semis, so you best believe we're not making the same mistakes this time around, and hopefully we have a team that can take us all the way. Before we get into the team builder or even the battle for this week, I'll quickly recap our draft. If you aren't worried about certain parts of the video being team builder or the draft, then you can go straight to the battle with the timestamps that I'll leave in the description below. Now, unfortunately we found ourselves in 13th spot, which is close to Will but not quite there. It's somewhat in the middle, meaning we really weren't likely to get anything too crazy, but it did mean that there was a good chance we could form some strong synergy early on. Realistically, with this first pick I was always going to try and grab either the best thing on the board or something that I haven't used before, and just so happened that both were really the same thing here. I'm actually really excited to use this because I've wanted to since it's been unbanned, and yeah, I finally get the chance, and that Pokemon is going to be Darkrai. Darkrai gives us a fantastic speed tier off the bat with a strong breaker and also a surprisingly great utility move pool, allowing it to fill a few roles for the team. Nasty Plot sets have very little checks, and with Darkrai's just about deep enough move pool, hopefully the diversity of this mon will be enough to cause nightmares for my opponents. Next up I want a Pokemon that can provide a sweeper to take advantage of the holes left by Darkrai. And after almost an entire generation of not using this Pokemon, I picked up Sneasler in round 2. Sneasler not only gives us great sweeping potential, but forces prep thanks to Dire Claw and Poison Touch, can be a breaker as well, and actually offers T-Spikes for the team should we need them. With Ghost and Psychic types often being a response, Sneasler is a fantastic pivot for Darkrai, and hopefully the two are able to open up the game for each other many times this season. Now, as the draft came back around, I was pretty dead set on getting a top tier Tera Captain next, and after I dropped it last season, I felt it was only right to give Ceruledge a second chance. With Tera, this Pokemon becomes extremely deadly, allowing it to either boost its great stabs or give it a better defensive type to help set up. Not to mention, it has two excellent abilities with Flash Fire for a more defensive option, and Weak Armor to make sweeps borderline unstoppable. I'm really not expecting it to flop like it did last season. I would be greatly disappointed if it did. But with 3 offensive powerhouses on the team already, I felt it was time to grab some bulkier mons to help pivot and provide a backbone for the team. And honestly, I couldn't believe that our 4th pick was still on the board at this point, but we went ahead and picked up Zapdos. Zapdos is one of the most consistent Pokemon to ever exist, with a fantastic typing, great abilities and excellent stats. It can pretty much play any role on a team. It really does add a strong glue piece to the team, as well as being a great way to switch into ground types that were becoming a problem. We really didn't have much for them. By round 5 in the draft, there really wasn't a lot of removal on the board. So I had to kind of look at exactly what I wanted, but I definitely wanted a spinner to help with Ceruledge and Zapdos so I don't have to run boots every week. So I grabbed what I felt was the best one on the board at the time, and that was Blastoise. Blastoise offers us another bulky pivot as well as a much coveted rapid spinner. I've actually never used it before at all, as far as I'm aware, in any generation. So I have no idea if it'll be a mon I gel with, but I do know that it gels well with Zapdos, as it enjoys coming on ground types that Zapdos baits, and vice versa, Zapdos enjoys the grass types that Blastoise brings in. Now at this point I knew what my next 2 picks were going to be, as one synergizes just too well for our current team to not pick, and our round 6 pick, Reuniclus, is something I've really wanted to try this generation as a Tera Captain. With great bulk and strong special attack, 2 of the best abilities in the game with Regenerator and Magic Guard, this Pokemon seems like it would thrive as a Tera Captain whilst also not needing it to perform, since Ceruledge, as a very high tier one, really wants that spot quite often. I love using this mon last gen, so I'm hoping it's able to hold up again this generation. And like I said, my next mon was going to synergize too well, and honestly, I had no idea what I was picking up after this round, so I just opted to guarantee a centerpiece for this team. So yeah, we picked up Rillaboom, a tried and true combo as old as Grassy Surge itself. The terrain setter into Unburden mon will help to create immediate openings for Sneasler, but also give us nice recovery for things like Blastoise, Ceruledge and Darkrai that normally wouldn't have any reliable options. Rillaboom also gives our team strong priority, another knockoff user, and once again another strong pivot. So after this, had virtually no points left. I liked the draft until now, but realistically the rest of it wasn't going to be great, so I had to go and do some real bargain hunting, and yeah, there was many things that we're lacking. We need hazards and some important types, with no Steel, Fairy or Ground types, we have no Spikes or Stealth Rock, and these could be major issues. So I'm not going to go over these Pokemon too much because we actually drop all 3 after week 1. But on our roster for week 1 we will have Duraludon, Gligar and 𝘾𝙀𝙍𝙍 and Avalugg, giving me most of what I needed, but not everything, and that's why I'm making trades after week 1. Now in PPL we have a 0-point tier where Pokemon that are never drafted and have like little to no viability are able to call home, and since we had no points remaining at this point, I just went all in on finding the best Pokemon in the tier, and after much searching came back with Dedenne and Porygon. Yes, Dedenne is our fairy type. And that's our draft. Let me know what you think, and I'll get right into the team builder for week 1. This season, I'm going to be much more in depth. Let me know if you prefer the more in depth team builders or quick team builder, or, you know, no team builders at all. Shroom has an extremely strong team, with Great Tusk and Iron Crown being 2 of the biggest reasons why we made it so far last season. We know how difficult they'll be to deal with. Iron Moth is a standout late game sweeper with Booster Energy and Fiery Dance looking really tough for us to deal with. 𝘾𝙀𝙍𝙀𝙀 is a comfort pick for Shroom. He knows how to use his Pokemon without Tera, and with Tera it just becomes even more of a problem. And speaking of comfort picks, I know how well he's used Porygon 2, 𝘾𝙀𝙀𝙀 and Qwilfish and Sinistcha in the past. They may not be the most threatening mons on paper, but in practice they'll be piloted by somebody who has a lot of experience using them. Azumarill is a water fairy type, and Shroom is basically a water fairy type at this point himself. Tera Kilowattrel is something that our squad really doesn't switch into, and Spidops can set up hazards to slow our offense, and honestly even Murkrow can't be overlooked, as Prankster T-Wave can shut down Sneasler or ceruledge instantly. Nosepass is also hit. For me this week, the game plan was to be kept simple: weaken the bulk and power through the frail mons with priority and speed. So I immediately went about finding my primary Wincon, and nothing would fit the bill better than ceruledge here. With Tera Ghost, +1 Shadow Sneak is able to pick off a majority of Shroom's offense, Poltergeist can OHKO a good portion of his team, and Bitterblade makes it really hard for him to whittle me down over time, since it provides a lot of recovery into his big HP pools. I decided to go bulk up over Swords Dance this week, simply due to ceruledge being able to tank hits from 𝘾𝙀𝙀𝙀, Great Tusk and Azumarill better, and since his special offense is mostly frail attackers, they're less of a concern as they'll drop to Shadow Sneak, and those special attackers that aren't frail in Sinistcha and Iron Crown are both not going to want to stay in. Despite being so strong here, we do need to break down a few mons on Shroom's team. Great Tusk, 𝘾𝙀𝙀𝙀 and Qwilfish, and most importantly the Porygon 2 are big roadblocks we need to navigate before we can look for an endgame. Tusk's natural bulk means it will take a hit comfortably at +1, and with a limited speed investment, it's likely that he's going to be able to hit us hard before we can ramp up. Qwilfish neutralizes us with Intimidate and can cripple us with Toxic, not to mention hits us super effectively with Stab. And lastly, because we're running Flash Fire this week as a means to try and help with Iron Moth, and also potentially to use it as setup fodder, we're actually hard walled by Trace Porygon 2, so if we see Trace, then the duck's got to go before we can even think about setting up. Since I didn't think it was really worth running CC over any other move this week, possibly that'll come back to bite me. With the ceruledge endgame in mind, a lot of the team is now centered around removing or weakening these 3 mons in Great Tusk, 𝘾𝙀𝙀𝙀𝙀, and Qwilfish and Porygon 2, whilst making sure not to lose to Shroom's offense before I get a chance to set up. First up is Reuniclus with its Assault Vest and Regenerator to act as a glue piece, letting us stomach hits from Iron Crown, Iron Moth and Kilowattrel, whilst also being able to bait and remove Eviolite from Qwilfish and Porygon 2 thanks to Knockoff. I fully expect him to be more Spadef this week with those last 2 mons, specifically to try and deal with Darkrai, who we'll get onto later. So realistically, Reuniclus won't be outputting huge damage numbers, but the combination of Knockoff and Psychic Noise will be vital to keeping P2 low. Focus Blast and Shadow Ball provide good coverage against Iron Crown, Sinistcha, and 𝘾𝙀𝙀𝙀 and Qwilfish, and we're opting for Tera Ground this week, since Gligar really isn't a good Kilowattrel deterrent. This at least gives us an option should we need it. It also means that Shroom has to think before being able to lock himself into a Specs Thunderbolt. Now, we really needed something for his physical attackers, mostly Great Tusk, so Zapdos was a must bring with a defensive Rocky Helmet build. If I can trade 1 for 1 with either Great Tusk or 𝘾𝙀𝙀𝙀, then this set has done its job, but I don't expect it to be able to handle both because they hit far too hard, and realistically Shroom should never let me get a roost off. Fortunately, Shroom's ground type really hates Hurricane, so I can go with Volt Switch as the pivoting move of choice to output the most amount of damage, and outside of Iron Crown and Kilowattrel, he has virtually no switch-ins to Hurricane should P2 go down. I debated running Thunder Wave over Heat Wave, but decided to go with Heat Wave to still be able to hit Kilowattrel neutrally, and also fish for burns, which could be more more impactful than Paras on some of his setup sweepers. Next up is Darkrai, and I almost didn't end up bringing this mon, but it's actually a huge help to the game plan. Similar to Reuniclus, it baits in 𝘾𝙀𝙍𝙍𝙀 and Porygon 2, but also acts as a powerful threat into the enemy team with a combination of Dark Pulse and Sludge Bomb. Knockoff is on this set for the same reason as Reuniclus, but it can also be a benefactor of its own knockoff, being able to knock, switch out, nasty plot next time it gets the chance, and if the switch in is one of these Eviolite Pokemon, they would have lost their valuable bulk and can no longer deal with a powerful Dark Pulse. Now, Focus Blast would have been really nice, but AV Azumarill was something I felt could be used as a check to Darkrai, preventing me from weakening P2 or Qwilfish, so I needed something to hit that, and Sludge Bomb does still offer good damage at a poison chance on Porygon 2, which means it's not a useless move should Azumarill not show up, but it means that Darkrai isn't a useless Pokemon should Azumarill come to this game. So I know I said a lot about the game plan being to win with ceruledge, but I don't like to put all my eggs into a singular Mon's basket, so I decided to bring a Swords Dance Sneasler as a secondary win con. This is here should we fail to work around ceruledge's answers or simply just position better for Sneasler to win. It's far too good into this matchup to leave on the bench. With a small amount of speed investment, we outspeed the entirety of Shroom's team, even with a Choice Scarf if we can proc the Unburden, and considering my item, you should be able to tell what the last mon on the team is, and that it should be easy to get that speed boost. After a Swords Dance, there are no mons that can realistically take both a close combat or an acrobatics, but knowing this, there's a strong chance that Shroom will have something up his sleeve, so I've put U-turn on there to scout earlier in the game to see what his switch in is, but also to be able to come in and remove a potential T-Spike from Hisuian Qwilfish and get out before I proc my Grassy Seed. Also, just to amend the words of Edna Mode, no Dire Claws, it's a bad move in draft. And lastly, to no one's surprise, it's Rillaboom. To set the terrain and click buttons, and that's about it. I don't know if you're expecting more analysis on this Pokemon. Realistically, it's just here to do what it do. Grassy Glide, great priority, especially if his Tera Haxorus away from a resist. The Wood Hammer, it just hits hard. High horsepower weakens Qwilfish and Iron Crown. It probably kills like every Iron Moth in existence. And then there's just U-turn to pivot into Sneasler. Realistically, this is just a throwaway Pokemon that can trade 1 for 1. As long as I can still facilitate Sneasler, then I will take any damage I can with Rilla, and then just bring it in to bring up the grassy terrain later on. I do want to quickly go over why I didn't bring things this season, since often you hear why things have been brought, but not why they weren't. Blastoise was really nice for spin, and hazards could be a problem, but it didn't offer enough to the overall game plan, was outclassed by Zapdos in a defensive role, and it's really lacking offensively. Allowed way too many things to come in and either set up or recover, and there wasn't enough move slots for everything to try and deal with all of that. Duraludon really only had like a couple of good sets. Stealth Rocks and Dragon Tail would have been fine. Iron Defense Body Press also would have worked, but I've got enough setup as it is, and the combination of like Great Tusk, Iron Moth, Sinistcha was just way too much for it to deal with, and there was just better Pokemon. Gligar was way too passive, and the hazards weren't super helpful into a team with Great Tusk. Avalugg was actually on the team until I realized that it just kind of lost to CC from Terra fighting Haxorus, as that was kind of its primary job, and I ended up just switching that out and bringing in Darkrai instead, which is a far better Pokemon in general. And then Dedenne and Porygon realistically never had a shot outside of Porygon coming for the Porygon versus Porygon 2 matchup, but that really would not have been a good one for me. I'm not gonna lie. So that's gonna be a team. Let me know what you think. I'm gonna go ahead and get into the battle, and I will see you guys there. Okay, so here we are for the battle against Shroom, and the start of this is going to be post-com because I am an idiot and I didn't unmute my mic for the first like 3 or 4 turns. So yeah, you get some hindsight thinking before the live com comes in. Yeah, but if you missed the team builder, we are bringing a Tera Ghost Ceruledge, a Tera Ground Reuniclus, defensive Zapdos, a knockoff Nasty Plot Darkrai, which, you know, it has its reasons, just a sweeper Sneasler, and of course Life Orb Rillaboom just to punch holes in things. So yeah, the game plan is basically just get rid of the Porygon 2 and the Hisuian Qwilfish. To be fair, the Great Tusk probably also needs to go as well. And then yeah, there's no Azumarill, there's no Iron Crown, there's no Sinistcha, so a lot of the bulkier mons are not here. But good luck, have fun to Dave, aka Shroomraver. Make sure to check him out, link will be down in the description below. And yeah, he leads off with the Great Tusk, as I'm going to lead off with my Reuniclus. It's not the best lead. I actually don't remember why I led off with Reuniclus. I think it was to prevent the lead Kilowatt-Troll, but here it to be booster attack, and I want no part of this. I have my switch in, and yeah, Zapdos. I'm just going to go straight to it and take what I think is either going to be like it might be a Headlong Rush, which obviously will be immune to, but I kind of expect an Ice Spinner on the like a neutral play in case I Tera ground, or if I go into my Zapdos. Like, it kind of fits for both. It also fits for the potential Rillaboom. It will get rid of my terrain, and also go ahead and do a lot of damage to it. So yeah, just gonna go out into my Zapdos here and see what he wants to go for. If there's a chance of potential static, because we've seen it's not pads, and he goes for the Mega Horn, which was certainly not one of the options that I was expecting. But after this, I'm pretty sure it's just going to be an Ice Spinner if he does stay in. I'm pretty free just to click Hurricane. We're not going to outspeed, I can tell you that much, because we are very, very slow, and if this is booster attack, it's probably running some speed. And there's a chance that he's Stone Edge, and I think Stone Edge is going to potentially kill us, but no, he reveals the Head Smash, so yeah, no static unfortunately on these 2 hits, but at the same time, that's a hefty chunk done to the Great Tusk. It is now very much weakened for my endgame Ceruledge, and also for the Sneasler. I mean, Sneasler could have done damage anyway, but this guarantees that I can do that damage. And we're just going to go out into our our Rillaboom here, because it, to be fair, it's pretty free into a lot of this team. And though I expect him to maybe switch out and preserve this, we've done enough damage now that realistically it can't switch into anything, and a lot of our mons are going to be able to outspeed it. So maybe he sacks us, and part 1 of the plan is in motion. It's ready to go. But also there's a good chance we just see the Qwilfish come in, intimidate us, and if that's the case, then we take our damage on that as well. So yeah, he's just going to let the Great Tusk go down to the Grassy Glide. So first kill of the season, going to go to Rillaboom, but it was really all Zapdos' work. Trading 1 for 1 there, pretty happy with that, certainly not going to complain. And it puts us in a pretty good position. And this is actually when I realised that my mic is muted. So from now on, you'll have live comm. We don't switch into Qwilfish particularly well, but a -1 with our Life Orb, I still think like we do so much damage to this, right? We should still do a good amount at the very least. After an Intimidate, High Horsepower still 2 KOs this, unless it's like really defensive. So I'm going to High Horsepower once. It is defensive. Good to know. As they are just going to let it set up the spikes. This was expected. I did not bring my removal, but at the same time, my removal into this team was pretty bad. So this time, I mean, like, High Horsepower still, like I say, I need damage on this. So do I just continue to take my damage? As long as I've got this mon alive, that's all that matters. So yeah, I will continue taking my damage. Realistically, I just need to free up my win cons of Sneasler and Ceruledge, and getting rid of these physically defensive mons is going to be way more beneficial to my end game plan. Is it a speed tie? Or did they spike before me last turn? Is it actually a speed tie? I don't know. I don't think it was. I think I want to use this opportunity to go out into my Darkrai, because Darkrai isn't exactly going to win me the game, but it's going to be able to immediately put pressure on P2. They're actually going to withdraw. Okay. And if it's just the... yeah, it is going to be Uni. Even if you're Specs, do you knock me out? You would have to be Specs Thunder. It's a massive roll in my favour to be able to live this. So yeah, fuck it, I'm just going to click Dark Pulse. Best case scenario is that they don't Tera and they just go straight out into their Porygon here. Veitch is the Porygon. Okay. No, my bad dreams. I didn't know whether or not this thing would be analytic download. So I have got like more Spadef than defense on every mon on this team, and I'm just going to click Knockoff. Again, work into my win cons, just get rid of the item here. If they decide to switch out again on a predicted switch, then that is absolutely fine by me. If they switch out expecting the knockoff as well, it's entirely possible. And we're going to start doing like, I don't know, 40-ish %. They are going to withdraw. Is this going to be Qwilfish? Yes. It's a good scout. So without the Eviolite, do I think you take this hit? You could well do. At the same time, I could just Dark Pulse, because if you're not Spadef, then this will kill you. I'm pretty sure it is, but they don't know like what my set is. So there's a good chance that they either try and switch again, or they could go for a second spike actually. Second spike is that bad for me? Not really. Like, the thing is with this team is that because of the grassy terrain, a lot of the time the spike doesn't matter too much. They are going to withdraw again. Back into the Porygon. Back into the Porygon. That's fine. We're going to go ahead and get yet another Dark Pulse off on this. And once again, do I want to knock? I think I do. Even if you T-Wave me here, that's fine. Crit, that's a bit brutal. But they're just going to try attack. Get their damage. Not get anything from it, but they do get their damage. I would just Dark Pulse again. This should then put me in range of the 𝘾𝙀𝙍𝙀𝙀, which is what I assume they're going for here. But we're almost in position where ceruledge can just come in and start clicking. I think the only thing we need to be scared of is the 𝘾𝙀𝙀𝙀𝙀, because we don't know what kind of spread it's running. So I do need to use Reuniclus to get that little bit of damage. I think if Kilo comes in here... Do I keep this now? I definitely could. I played it very aggressively as if I don't need it, so I could now keep it. I think I just need to make sure that, like, ceruledge can actually endgame now. Even after an Intimidate, Bitterblade will just demolish Qwilfish. If Haxorus ever clicks Scale Shot, we're in a pretty good spot as well. Shadow Sneak will just 2 KO at +1. Iron Moth could be is in fact very much an opportunity for me to be able to click Bulk Up, because there shouldn't be anything they can do to me, but you never know. Uni comes back in. I think my priority is now really quite necessary, so I will just go out into my Reuniclus. We are Spadef and we're Assault Vest, because this mon actually hits really fucking hard. Specs, Tera Electric, in fact, might just do enough to take me out after spikes. But if a Specs locks itself into Thunderbolt, at least we'll be able to calc that. And it looks like they're not terroring at all, they just go for a Hurricane. Puts me down to 2-1-4. Do you have a Psychic switch in at this point? Not really. Do I even need to go for that? Should I just double out? Is that even Specs? I don't think it is. No, it's definitely not Specs. So that's good to know. I feel like you go into the Qwilfish. I'm going to Focus Blast as a mid-ground. As long as we land, the Qwilfish dies. Yeah, it's a Qwilfish. The downside to this play is that we miss. Then, yeah, which we don't, of course. Downside was that if we missed, then they'd probably get a second spike, or they get some damage, potential poison on us. Now, their only option here is Haxorus, and I just need damage on Haxorus. So I have two options, as far as I'm aware, and one of them is just to go into Rillaboom, click High Horsepower on a Tera Poison. The other one is just to stay in, click Psychic Noise. We actually do a fuck ton of damage. We do so much damage with Psychic Noise. So that it should then put it in range of my priority. Yeah, it's going to be the Haxorus that comes in. It's unnerved, makes sense. So I'm not in a position where I need to do anything stupid. I think I just go for a Psychic Noise. Knowing that 𝘾𝙀𝙀𝙀𝙀 isn't Specs means that my ceruledge should be fine. And in case they do this, I think this gives me the like best out. Yeah, that was a solid 50%. Haxorus the +1 is going to murder me. Earthquake wouldn't. Would Earthquake knock me out from here actually? 2-4. 58, so Earthquake would be a roll. But it's a roll in their favour. This is almost definitely my chance to just get up the terrain. I believe my Sneasler should always be faster, and we should always kill with Acrobatics. So, proc the Unburden, this at +1. Yeah, we're always faster, so I think this is a time in which we let our guy go down. Keep the Reuniclus to be able to deal with the 𝘾𝙀𝙀𝙀𝙀. Just Dragon Claw, that's going to knock us out. We go into Sneasler, we click Acrobatics. Unfortunately, he's no longer prevented from healing, so it's... actually, no, it doesn't get it on this turn. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and click Acrobatics. This thing would have to have a lot of bulk. A lot of bulk. On top of that, we've seen this Dragon Claw, which should never knock us out. What have they got in the back? It is, yeah, nothing too detrimental. So just go for the Acrobatics, prevent the sweep here. I guess another option was to go out into ceruledge and bulk up, but I don't think that was the right option. I think it's just better for me to go this way. Try and force in the Iron Moth to be able to set up my ceruledge, and then just Tera Ghost and Shadow Sneak till the end of days. He's also got to think about the positioning of like 𝘾𝙀𝙍𝙀𝙀 against his team, because realistically this is the only thing that can actually knock out 𝘾𝙀𝙍𝙀𝙀. They are going to Tera. They Tera Poison, but that's not going to change the calc on acrobatics. Picks up the KO. Lovely. Can't Tera the 𝘾𝙀𝙍𝙀𝙀 anymore. So the damage output on Kilo is going to be very, very low, which should mean now that I can pretty much just set up with everything. Whatever comes out here, I'm just going to U-turn, because I believe this is Speed Creeping Moth, or at least it should be. 699. I'm intrigued as to what this name is, Dave. I am very much unsure as to what this name is. I'm pretty certain I can just U-turn out into 𝘾𝙀𝙍𝙀𝙀 here. Get that big chip damage. It's Rocky Helmet. Okay, so this was his defensive answer. That is really interesting. So it's either a Psychic or it's a Fiery Dance. I will just go into ceruledge, I think, actually. Because if it's a Fiery Dance or something, then we're gonna take nothing. Yeah, we get a Flash Fire from this. Like, just in case you're Meteor Beam, I'm gonna go for this. I'm actually a little bit scared of... You're not Meteor Beam, you're Rocky Helmet, what am I talking about? But regardless, I think Poltergeisting is the right play. I no longer need the Tera Ground. I think the Tera Ghost should be enough from this point. Oh, is that going to be Discharge? Okay. Gets the Paro as well. He knows my weakness. Go for the Poltergeist. Do we land? Yes. Does this live? Surely not. No. A crit? I genuinely don't know whether that mattered. Simply based off of the fact that it was like max defense. Or looked to be very defensive. With Rocky Helmet. I don't think it mattered. Like, I just generally don't think it mattered. But I will just make sure, I'll see, 𝘾𝙀𝙍𝙀𝙀, Bitter Blade should always pick up the KO. At the very least, Bitter Blade into Shadow Sneak will. Bitter Blade with the Flash Fire, I mean, he's going for the Parafusion. I think he kind of has to at this point. Doesn't get it though. And that is a dead 𝘾𝙀𝙍𝙀𝙀, and a 4-0 win for week 1. Love that for me. Good game to Dave. I knew that he was going to try and beat me with that Haxorus again. He did it in NX. He was going to try and do it again. But this team was way better prepared for a Haxorus than my previous one. But please do make sure to go check out 𝘾𝙀𝙍𝙀𝙀, link will be down in the description below. He makes incredible content, by far the most effort that anybody I think puts into any of their content, so please do check him out. He's also one of my favourite people, one of my best friends, so yeah. Leave a like if you enjoyed battle, subscribe, starting the season off on the right foot. We are making some changes for next week. Do I regret them? Will I take them back now? Who knows? Probably not. With that, I'm going to get out of here. Until next one, have a great day, guys. Peace.